Hello!
Hello!
And welcome to our house.
It's Tipsy Tuesday around these parts.
Cheers.
Cheers!
Hi, I'm Reed Garcia, founder of Help for Life. This is my wife.
Danielle, and it's bad luck not to drink after you cheers. So hurry, cheers! Okay.
So, welcome to day 2 of Learn to Cook to Impress a Date. So, this is day 2 of 5. So this week, every weeknight, starting with yesterday, going through Friday, we are going to teach you guys a little bit something different around the kitchen. So yesterday, what did we do, Danielle?
We made lemon drop martinis and talked a little bit about the gear that you want to stock your kitchen with.
Yeah.
So,
So part of this, hashtag no shame plug, is to help promote our course that we've created called Kickstart Your Kitchen, which just for this event, we've decided to discount down from the normal $99 to $69 because giggity. And this week, we're going to be going through some of the key milestones of Kickstart Your Kitchen. So yesterday, we covered the prep your setup. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about plan and shop. So Danielle, when it comes to plan and shop, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, I actually did something that I haven't done in a while today, and that was go into a physical grocery store and shop around.
Wow.
Because I've just been doing the Walmart pickup. Lincoln's coming to say hi.
Yeah, Lincoln's down here too. He says, I want to be on the TV too.
Oh yeah, he's like, whenever you're making something in the kitchen, then I am right there.
And
he's ready.
He does this thing where he walks right between our legs.
I don't know.
Hi.
Oh my goodness, he slipped.
So we were talking about planning and shopping. So why have you been doing that in the grocery store lately? I mean, online. What made you switch to online?
Well, I think I first switched in March 2020, whenever quarantine started, or shelter in place, whatever they called it at that point. But yeah, I started doing where you just use the Walmart app to place your order, and then you drive up, put your parking spot number in the app, and then they load the groceries into the back of your car for you.
Nice. So
and yeah, I guess normally that does involve a little bit more planning before you shop so that you can plan the time window that you want to go pick up your groceries and thinking ahead. Whereas today, I thought I had everything that we needed to make queso, but I realized I'd used our cilantro for something else. And I'd been using the cheese over the course of the last 2 weeks as well. So got some new cheese, new cilantro, and now we're ready to go for queso.
Yeah. And we actually use all of the methods. Sometimes we plan and order in advance and go pick it up. Sometimes we have it to where they deliver it, and other times we go to the store. But in general, I think in this day and age, there's really no big reason to go to the store yourself, unless you just want to browse the product yourself. A lot of the worries people have about online stuff are, I'm not going to get the best produce or all these types of things. Well, remember that it's in the business's best interest to provide you with a great experience so you keep buying stuff from them. Now, that being said, not everything's perfect, and we've certainly had some delivery issues where people had issues finding our apartment or things like that. Hold on, let me move this dog who is insisting that we play right.
He takes his nose and he just shoves it right into your hip. He's like, play with me, play with me.
Yeah. No.
Dejected.
Yes, and yeah. It's one thing to try and talk, another thing to try and talk when there's a dog shoving his very pointy nose.
Well, I was just thinking you were trying to talk while you were waving this tequila in my face. And so I'm like, are you hypnotizing me with the tequila? Are we going to take a shot or what?
Yeah, so why don't you pour that and I'll pick up where I left off, which was talking about whether or not you should go and get your groceries online or not. As part of that is there... Actually, one second. All right, so as we pour these tequila shots, we tell you a little bit about what it's like to do your online shopping, but the nice thing is you can do it from the comfort of your own home. You can set up your staples that you order every time. And there's a lot of things where it can save you a lot of time and effort. No, by the way, it's different if you're spending an hour or whatever shopping for things on your couch than walking through the aisles, waiting in lines, all those types of things.
Well, and inevitably, whenever you're walking the aisles, you see something that you don't really need, like this strawberry beer. But then I was like, oh, hey, $13 for 12 beers. Maybe I would have missed that deal by shopping online. So I feel like I should mix it up more often. And also, another cool thing, I got a new kind of cheese for us to try with our queso.
Ooh.
So.
Never seen that brand before.
No. And I wouldn't have discovered it if I wasn't just walking past the cheese cabinet. What is it called?
The bottom line is, go every now and then.
Yeah.
You know, it's good. And I didn't think about this till right now, but we are making queso today, which is a delicious mix of Mexican and Texan and American. It's kind of like taking some of the inspiration from Mexico and the peppers and a little bit of the cheese. And then we add a good dose of America and add in a bunch of the cheese and all the deliciousness. And a cool thing today is, without even intending to, we have tequila, which is from Mexico. And we're drinking Shiner beer, which is from Texas. So I'll cheers to that again.
Cheers!
Cheers.
Look each other in the eyes. We have bad sex for 7 years.
Yeah, I don't know. Don't know where all we heard that, but definitely heard that from Aziz Ansari.
Oh.
I don't know where you heard it.
I don't know. I feel like that wasn't from him, originally at least.
All right. Well, first, let's talk about one thing that we often do anytime we need to do any planning or anything that we don't really want to have that much time or work doing, and that is drink. So as part of these drinks, we are actually going to take tequila shots solely for the purpose of teaching you guys. Look at the sacrifices that we make for you and remember them. Because what we're doing right now is we're setting up a couple of shots here. And what Danielle's doing is she's cutting up an orange, and then she's going to take a little something special, which is what?
This is a mixture of cinnamon and sugar. It's super fancy.
Super fancy. And it's just 1 part sugar, 1 part cinnamon?
Ish. I just eyeball it. Start with the sugar, however much you want to make, and then basically just sprinkle in cinnamon and stir it up until it looks like a lightish tan color that looks like a good amount of cinnamon has dispersed throughout the sugar.
That was an extremely scientific and exact definition. I like it.
I don't do anything really exact, so here we go.
And in case you guys are curious what tequila we are
orange
drinking,
for Lincoln.
We are drinking a Gonzales 1939, which let's check my Spanish to see if I can do this. 1939. Hey, not too bad. You know, maybe a little faster would have been good, but I said it. And this is what's called an añejo tequila, which in case you've not had that many tequilas before, añejo means old, or in this case, aged. And what happens with tequila is that you have what's called the silver or a blanco, and that has not been aged either at all, or at least maybe less than a year.
I think it's like somewhere around 3 months, maybe.
3 months.
3 to 6 months.
But the bottom line is it's not been aged very much. And then you have the next step up in the aging process, which is called reposado.
Gold tequila.
Yeah, or gold, which I'm not 100% sure those are synonymous, but
it's usually the blanco tequila is clear, and then the reposado is a golden color.
It is a more golden hue. And that's because it's aged often in actually bourbon barrels, but other barrels as well, I believe. That's the part where I'm not 100% sure on that, but definitely aged. And Reposado's kind of been aged a little bit, and Añejo's been aged longer.
And 2 years, I think.
Longer than 2 years in
Yeah.
this number. And then past that, there's even an extra Añejo where it's been aged even longer. And the thing that comes out with the aging in the barrels, it gives you extra flavors, and you can even just sip on this, kind of like you would a whiskey or a nice aged rum, which we also have over there. But it's the only tequila we have. We need to do a restock of our liquor, which now that we think about it, maybe we'll make a video on how we'd like to do that.
Oh yeah, total wine drive up.
Again, the sacrifices we make for you guys. Let's just be real. But when in Rome, you need tequila shots. I think that's how the phrase goes.
Something like that. Who cares? It's Tuesday. Tequila Tuesday.
Tequila Tuesday, indeed. And so we can get a close-up here on what these little orange slices look like. I don't know if it's coming across that great in the camera, but you just kind of take some of that cinnamon sugar and put it on the orange, and then you go from there. So we'll start with a nice Spanish, I mean, it's probably Mexican, but a nice toast that is in Spanish that I like a lot. Is very descriptive and easy to follow along. It's kind of like a line dance, you know? It just tell you the instructions. So.
Oh! It fell right in there. That's fine.
Nice.
Here we go.
So, you remember it? You gonna tell us what it is?
How does it start with? Arriba?
Arriba.
Abajo?
Abajo.
Al centro?
Al centro.
Al dentro!
Adentro. And then you sit there because it's good tequila, and like you realize like I don't really need to drink this. Another pro tip for you guys, and I say drink this, I mean I don't need to eat the orange because that tequila is just so good. A big tip for you guys: when you're drinking straight alcohol, if you exhale right after you drink it, it takes a lot of those harsh alcohol fumes out of your mouth. So when you take a shot, a lot of times people going like, give me your best pucker face.
Well, I was just going to say exhale directly on your neighbor.
Oh, yeah.
That'll be great.
It directly on the officer that pulls you over. Just kidding. Don't drink and drive. So, yeah. But the nice little bit of sweetness from the orange with the cinnamon sugar. Very good touch. So, the reason we brought this up is, you know, when it comes to planning and shopping, as with everything in life, it's going to be much easier for you to do if you're enjoying yourself. If it's something you don't like to do, you're probably not going to want to do it. You're probably not going to end up doing it as often, and so many things like that. A phrase I found myself saying a lot lately, which is, the more that I make a thing of something versus just being something that I do, the bigger cloud it has over my head, the less likely it's going to happen, all of those types of things. And so by having a little fun with it, having a couple drinks, we get the planning and shopping, make it a lot less painful.
Mm-hmm. And another thing that when you're talking about these, like, shopping online, making it easier, Walmart will actually learn your staples. Like, I didn't have to do anything for it now to be like, oh, is it time for you to reorder milk and cilantro and this kind of cheese and eggs? Because you always do that. And tortillas are a staple for us too. So yeah, now I can basically start off my Walmart order with like $40 of 20 something items that we get every time. So it makes it really easy.
Nice. And then another thing I wanted to point out since I grabbed it was this little towel here, which will include a link to these. And of course you can get your own, but the whole idea with this is to have some sort of chef's towel. Another term for this is like a tea towel that you just have around. And just so we can define my towel system, because I think it's good and I think the more people that use it will be valuable, is 3 towels, which sounds silly, but until you realize what they are. So there's the chef's towel, which is meant to be as you're around, as you're cooking, you can wipe your hands on this. They're kind of clean, not all the way perfect. Don't do like raw meat juices and things like that that may have issues with food illness. If you have like a cutting board, you cut a bunch of tomatoes on, and you got a lot of excess liquid or whatever, you can use this to kind of wipe it up. If you have a plate, you want to like wipe off the little stray bits so it looks a little prettier. That's another good use for it. Then another towel we've got here. It's what we call, and forgive my French, a shit towel. And just because that's what it is. You use it for everything. If you got a spill, you wipe it off. You got a counter, you wipe it off. You drop something on the floor, you wipe it off. And this is instead of paper towels, which we also have. But ever since we started using these towels, our use of paper towels went to basically nothing. Because this is more absorbent. It's already out on the counter, so it serves as a natural prompt for you to wipe off the counter real quickly. You don't have to think about, oh, I'm going to go get a paper towel and I'm going to go do that. It's like, no, you just grab this in between things. Danielle is just here, so I'll sit here and I'll just wipe off the food into my hand, and I'll go drop it in the sink or in the trash, and then we're good to go. And then the last towel is a dish towel, which could also be known as a hand towel. And this is meant for clean stuff only. I can't tell you the number of houses I've been in where it's like, someone cleaned a dish or I cleaned a dish or whatever, and I dry it off with the dish towel. And the next thing you know, I see them wiping off the counter with this, or they're wiping their hands, or...
They don't know your system.
They don't know the system. There's got to be a better way. Well, we thought of the better way. So, anyways, towel tangent aside, what Danielle did here was, before the show, she actually went ahead and roasted some poblanos. So, for those of you who are not familiar with the poblano, it's a type of pepper. And basically what she did was she just put these in the oven on what temperature, Danielle?
I broiled them on high.
So she broiled them on high, which puts that top element, which, fun fact for you.
Peppers we broil on high. I don't know. That's all. That just came to my head.
I think I heard that the
There
other
you go.
day. I like it. Fun fact for you, though, a broiler in the UK, they call that a grill. Did you know that? Yeah, so it's like, oh, we're going to grill it.
Okay.
But anyways, broil is the top element of your oven. It turns on, it gets really hot, which is great because you can blacken things really well, help you get that Maillard reaction, which if you've never heard that before, we talk about that in the course. But the downside of broiling is it's really hot. So you can very easily burn things. If you've ever made toast this way, that's a very easy way to catch your toast on fire if you're not paying attention to it.
I was just going to say, the first time we ever made fondue for two, we made, what was it? Like, cut up a baguette into little slices.
Small pieces.
And then put butter on them and garlic. And so it was like garlic toast to then dip in the cheesy fondue. And we put it in the oven and closed the door and walked away. And it wasn't that long, but it was on broil on high on these unpredictable college apartment ovens, you know. So then when we came back, we smelled something and I opened the oven and flames were coming out. So me, being so great in emergencies, I was like, oh my gosh, there's flames coming out of the oven. What do we do? And he's like, just close the oven, Danielle. So note for fire safety for everyone out there, whether it's a toaster oven or the oven, if there's flames coming out of it, just shut the door and smother the flames.
Nice. And since you mentioned that, I want to say in the course, Kickstart Your Kitchen, we have a whole, at least video,
That's my beer.
about fire safety. And so we talk more about that and
Yes.
some other techniques you can use. I even made a little cheesy song, which, you know.
What? Cheesy songs?
Yeah.
We don't find any of those here.
Good point. And I just wanted to point out, since another cheesy song that I just shared was this past Thursday on What the Hell is Water episode, which if you haven't heard of it before, it's a weekday morning show we do every weekday. It's a talk show, 7:30 to 8:30 a.m. Central. And this last Thursday, I had a real, I guess, vulnerable time where I was sharing some of the thoughts that I go through and some of the self-sabotaging that I go through a lot of times before I am willing to share something with the world, and how going live has been a big part of me trying to reduce that barrier and to share more and encourage you guys to share more as well. So in that, I have a little song that I wrote and shared, which was silly, encouraging people to make a little list. You can check out the link for more on that in the chat. So Danielle, we're making queso. First off, do you have a name for your queso?
I should. I really should. I think I've just been calling it like roasted poblano queso, because really that's the most, I feel like, distinguishable piece of the dish, or the most like flavor impactful part of the dish. So roasted poblano, white queso, or queso blanco.
So what do you do for a living? I'm a flavor impactor.
Oh. I'm clearly not a recipe namer.
No.
I'm just the recipe creator / cooker.
And eater.
And eater. Always eater.
So you're like, okay, who is this white girl and why should she teach me how to make queso? What would you say to that?
Because I adhere to a very strict diet where the top 3 food groups are cheese, butter, and bread. So what is queso and tortilla chips / tortillas but cheese, butter, and bread? There you go.
That's all the proof you need. Because of Danielle's diet, she is an expert. She also...
I have eaten a lot of quesos across the country. I have tried quesos in, let's see, how many states? Well, how many states even have queso? That would be a good...
I know. So you're not getting the authentic queso. If you ever go and see it on a menu, it says queso dip.
Flamiado.
Or queso flamiado. Which
Not
is
queso! No. Don't get me started!
So we're on the same page here. The word queso by itself in Spanish just means cheese. Yeah. And if you go to Mexico and you expect to get this, queso dip that we're making today, you will be sorely disappointed. The closest thing that they have there...
I wouldn't say sorely disappointed.
But...
I mean, I'm never disappointed by... Well, I guess not true. There is some bad cheese you can be disappointed by.
But the bottom line is, what we're making today is oftentimes called queso dip, whereas a lot of times what you get in the traditional Mexican food is queso flameado or the queso fundido, which is actually pretty much just cheese that's kind of melted. And it can be really good. You get some Oaxaca cheese, you melt it down, you put it in some freshly made tortillas. Super bomb. But this is good with anything. Like, you can have it on tortilla chips, you can have it on a tortilla, and all sorts of things.
Yes, I was going to say, some other ideas for queso that we can share. We made like a chipotle rice bowl with some chicken thighs and then put the queso on top of that. So it was like queso chicken thigh rice bowl. See, I'm not so good at the recipe names, but it's very descriptive.
Oh, well, look.
It is what it is.
Why don't you check on your onions while you put on those really loud plastic gloves? So Danielle, what she's done ahead of time was she got the onion, which was what kind of onion?
A sweet onion.
A sweet onion. Or a yellow onion, but I personally am kind of partial to sweet onion, especially because there's a kind that I believe comes from Mississippi called the Vidalia onion, or if you're from Mississippi, you might say Vidalia. And basically, she just diced up that onion and she put it with some butter, I'm guessing.
Yep, some butter.
She put a little bit of butter in the pot.
That's a lot of butter. Might be a lot of butter.
Might be a lot of butter. Put a lot of butter in the pot.
It's like half a stick.
Okay.
And 2 small sweet onions.
And just so we're all on the same page here, half a stick of butter is 4 tablespoons, which this thing makes, what, how many servings would you say? It's going to be like 20 plus.
Servings of queso. Well, and also serving size of queso can vary so differently. Like, is it a Danielle serving size of queso?
So,
or...
when you see it in comparison, it's not that much, I guess is the point. And also, let's be real. We're not kidding anyone here. You're eating cheese dip. Like,
yeah,
if you're expecting it to be healthy, that's on you. So she got the onions. She's sauteing them, which basically she's just putting them on medium heat on the stove, and she's letting them soften a little bit. You're not trying to get any color on them or caramelize them at all, are you?
A little.
Or are you?
They can soften and get some color.
But you're not trying to get them super brown or super tall,
No.
tiny and reduced.
No.
You're just trying to get... Basically, you might hear the term sweat out the onions a little bit. You're removing a little bit of moisture. They're getting a little bit smaller in size. And then they are also getting a little bit more delicious. So she's doing that. And then she's now working on the poblano peppers, which, in case you're curious, poblano peppers are not that spicy.
Correct. I think they can vary. And I've definitely had some Anaheim peppers that have done me dirty because they were just way spicier than I thought they were going to be. But poblanos, they're not too spicy. I feel like the jalapenos are what affect the spice level of the queso.
Oh, okay.
More.
So I don't see those in there. So in addition to the 4 or so poblano peppers that you've roasted, it looks like 2 or 3 jalapenos as well. And jalapenos, definitely worth warning you about, because jalapenos, you can have one jalapeno where you could literally bite into it and be like, oh, that's not too bad. And then you have other ones where you start crying.
Right. And if you,
because they're so spicy.
Right. If you want to pull out, we have some uncooked jalapenos in the fridge, and we can talk about how you can tell what jalapenos will be spicier than other ones.
Yeah, I don't know how much we'll be able to do from these themselves, because there's only 2 of them. But some of the things that you can do are what, Danielle?
And this is from a home gardener with some experience with peppers. She said that you look for the ones that have like little striations on them. So they
like
look
the wiggly
like,
lines.
yes.
Or like
they
stretch
look
marks.
almost like you can yes, like you can see through the green skin of the pepper, and it's like cracking almost.
Kind of tiny, wrinkly looking things.
Yes, and they look like tan. They look like it's like a different color than the skin of the
So yeah, a couple of
jalapeno.
rules of thumb with pepper, which are by no means hard and fast, from my understanding, are if they're smaller, if they're wrinklier, if they have more of these striations, then they're a little more likely to have more heat. And
Yes.
if heat is something that's of concern to you, the main thing that you want to remove is the seeds and the pods that hold the seeds. And there's a chemical called capsaicin, that's what adds the heat. And it's just found the most on those seeds and along the ribs and things like that. So if you cut those out, then you can help remove some of the heat. And another thing is, maybe you decide, oh, okay, I'm going to add 1 jalapeno for heat, and then the rest I'm going to take out. So you can get a little bit of the heat, but not too much. And another way you can help moderate this is if you have multiple people who are coming like, oh, well, I know Susie doesn't really like the heat that much, but I know Rich, oh man, he'll eat one of those jalapenos whole. And when you have a mix like that, then one thing you could do is maybe chop up some peppers and add them on the side so people can just sprinkle them on top. Which reminds me, one other thing we made, did you ever share a post on these or no?
I did not.
Is we made just some homemade pickled, or no, what were these?
They're candied serrano.
Candied
peppers.
serranos. So serranos, which I think are a little hotter than jalapenos.
I do.
If you've never heard of peppers
Yeah.
before, today you're learning about a whole bunch of them because we've got Anaheim, we've got poblanos, jalapenos, serranos. Anyways, regardless of what type of pepper you got, this is basically just a mixture of water and sugar, heated up, melted, and then put into this, and they let sit. So they get a little bit of the sweet to help counteract some of the spice. And so putting some of these on top of queso is really delicious. And oh, by the way, we'll shout out to our local restaurant where we got this idea from, which is called the Sticks Ice House. So hello, Sticks Ice House, McKinney, Texas, represent. Hello from the internet. So Danielle.
And our dog is a Sticks dog. He was on their Instagram.
Our dog, Instagram famous.
Oh, you know, always.
So Danielle, walk us through a little bit what you're doing right now with the peppers.
Okay, so basically, I'm just trying to peel off as much of the skin as I can, because it kind of, once you cut it up and put it in the queso, the skin can like roll up on itself and get stringy, and then you're like picking skin out of your teeth, which, I mean, it's really not that big of a deal. You don't have to do it. It's more of a texture thing that I like to do. And then the seeds, I'm trying to remove as much of the seeds as I can, just also because it's not fun to get seeds stuck in your teeth. And once you've like roasted them, I also feel like seeds don't really add any flavor. It's just like a texture thing that you don't want to get stuck in your teeth in your queso. But also, some seeds make it in there and they soften up as they cook, and it's fine. It's not that big of a deal, but you're just trying to, I guess, overall decrease the percentage of skin and seeds to pepper meat that you put in your queso.
Yeah, and a couple things I want to point out there. One is there's a lot of vegetables that go into this. You know, again, it's not healthy, so there's no seriousness about that.
It's not the worst thing you could be eating.
It's not the worst thing you could be eating, but
it's all like real ingredients.
yeah, there's a ton of peppers in there and onions. And that's one of the reasons I like it a lot, is because there's add a lot of depth of flavor, but they also add a little bit of things that are good for you too. And we're all about mixing the things that are good with you with a little bit of the things that are bad for you.
Yeah.
And
fully...
what did we do yesterday that was kind of along those lines?
What was it?
I don't know. I forget.
I don't know.
So Danielle's getting that prepped. So she's kind of black on the outside. And in this case, she didn't make them super, super black. But sometimes if you do make them really, really black and you don't want some of that burnt flavor to come in, what you can do is you could take those peppers and you can put them in a bag and just let them steam for a while. And then after they steam, you can just take your hand and just kind of pull off all the skin. So that's a way where you can kind of get some of those roasty flavors without getting kind of the blackened, more burnt flavors. But in this case, Danielle didn't go that far with her roast, so she doesn't need to do that.
Well, and also, I mean, that putting them in the paper bag to steam is recommended just for getting the skin off in general. But
yeah, if you learn anything from yesterday,
this is well enough, you know.
If you learn anything from yesterday, it's that I like to take very methodical, scientific, rational, meaningful, logical.
And I like to say fuck it.
And that's why we have a PG-13.
I get one per show. There you go. That was it.
I like it. So that's Danielle's style. She likes to say that word, which she now can't say anymore because she's used up her word. So well done.
Unless you want to be a non-PG-13 live stream.
You stick around late enough. Maybe it turns into... Anyway, so let's tell you a little bit more about the course that we totally want you guys to buy, which is called Kickstart Your Kitchen. And with the course, as I've mentioned, as Danielle continues with the poblano. So real quick with the poblano, she's getting rid of some of the seeds, she's getting rid of the skin, and then she's going to also dice it up. And then she's going to add it to...
Dice it up real nice.
Dice it up real nice. And actually what I'm asking you to do, Danielle, is rotate over there as you do that. Because this crinkling is hurting my ears.
Oh, well.
Crinkle, crinkle, baby. So... as Danielle gets that poblano diced up to put in the pan with the onions, which I'll check on.
Stir them, maybe.
Do you have a spatula yet?
No. I like the wooden ones up there.
Why do you like the wooden ones?
Just because it's a natural ingredient, and I don't know. I feel like my great-grandmother and grandmother would have used a wooden utensil, and so I just like wooden utensils better. I don't know. Also, you don't have to worry about them scratching your non-stick stuff.
That's true. That's very true.
So, yeah. Wooden utensils. Gotta love them.
So, another pro tip for you. Have at least 2 spoon rests, because when one's in your dishwasher, especially when there was raw meat involved, it's good to have another one ready to go. But if you don't have one at all, or you don't have 2, one thing you can do is just use a small plate. So that's what I've done in this case.
How ingenious. Resourceful.
So we're talking about, when we talk about the plan and shop section of our course, there's kind of 3 big things we talk about, which is how to meal plan, grocery shop like a boss, and then this isn't really expired, is it? And you can learn more about the course and everything we've got inside it by going to kickstartyourkitchen.com. And oh, by the way, on the website, it's going to show $99 price, but because of this lovely special we're doing, you can get the lovely price of $69. We thought it would be a lovely thing to go. Week of Valentine's, week of love. 69 is great. We actually have a whole episode on our show, What the Hell is Water, about 69, which we'll share in the chat. It was coincidentally episode 69. We're on episode freaking 93 now. So please come join us every weekday morning. And
we like multiples of 3s.
Yes, we do. 6 and 9. Quick maths. So when it comes to meal plan, this is one of the areas I'm really excited about for our course, because we've already got some really good information in there. And what we did is we looked at what the government recommends, and they have a system called My Plate. And then we also looked at what some third-party people did, which is Harvard. They took a look at My Plate and said, okay, those are pretty good, pretty close, but here's a couple of the slight things that we would change. And so we include the information in there so you know, like, hey, as you're trying to meal plan, can I at least roughly get some things that are kind of healthy? And for us, like, we try to make sure we're getting fruits and vegetables and things like that, but we don't overly stress about it.
Yeah, I would say variety is a great thing to strive for, because if you're getting a variety of vegetables or a variety of fruits, or not always eating the same thing, then at least you're getting a little bit of built-in variety of nutritional composition.
And another kind of rule of thumb along the same things with variety is the more colors you get on your plate, in general, the more nutrients and vitamins you're going to get into.
Taste the rainbow.
69. Did you say taste the rainbow 69?
Just kidding.
So be Be diverse with your 69 is Danielle's message to the world. Glad we got that one in there. So, but the reason I'm excited about this section is because we're actually about to revamp it. We're partnering with a nutritionist who has started to look at our course and says, all right, you guys got some good stuff in there, but I want to work with you guys to take it to the next level. And so we're actually going to be doing a cohort with him in the future in March about going through Kickstart Your Kitchen, but also doing one live session per week where we're going to talk about how to change your relationship with food. So keep your ears peeled if you want to know a little bit more about that, and we'll eventually include links to how you can find out more about that. Actually, we can include one now, which is helpfulforlife.com/KYK-cohorts, COHORTS. And if you're watching this live, or maybe within the next day or couple of days, that might just push you to what we're doing this week. But eventually it'll be updated to be broader than what we're doing this week. So, Danielle, first off, I don't know if we mentioned, why are you wearing gloves?
Oh, well, that's actually a great story because I'm stubborn and like to believe I don't need help in figuring out how to do certain things. I don't need gloves, that's for wusses. I'm just going to peel these peppers and pick out all these seeds with my fingertips. That's a smart idea. So there was one fateful night that I made my queso, and then later, I'd wash my hands, thought that I was free of the wrath of the jalapeno seeds and pulp and skin, whatever, seeps into your fingers and then stays there for hours, maybe even up to a day. I don't know. But the long story shorter is I was in the shower and touched some sensitive areas
Your earlobe?
with my fingertips and then started burning. So, now I wear gloves.
This has been a PSA brought to you by Danielle.
Gloves are a beautiful thing. I don't think there's a song I was trying to do.
Yeah.
But I didn't quite get there. It'll come to me.
I like it. Maybe another shot of tequila would help that.
Oh, maybe.
Okay. Oh, get the DJ air horn. Danielle can't hear it, but I can hear it, and that's all that matters.
How are your ears after that?
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, getting close on the peppers here?
Yes. So now I will just...
Yeah, so real quick, before
Throw
Danielle
this
does
away.
anything. Hold on. You stay there.
Okay.
Here's another tip that we recommend. Anytime you're doing any sort of produce prep or things like that, have a bowl or a plate or even the frickin' produce bag, but some sort of container nearby in your workspace. So that way you can just easily dump it right into there. And in this case, we have a trash can right next to our prep space, which is totally another good thing you can do. Or you could have your sink that you can just shove stuff into. But by thinking ahead, doing a little bit of mise en place, which is a concept we also talk about in our course and we talked about yesterday. And by doing a little bit of work and having that stuff there and ready for you, you don't have to think about it. Like, oh, what do I do with all these things? How do I hold this flimsy cutting board over the trash can without dumping all of the peppers in and having a near miss to where I almost dumped all of the peppers on the floor?
I know. I was just about to say, Reed, don't dirty up another bowl whenever I've clearly got it handled with this sectioned cutting board thing I've got going on over here.
And again, you can see the difference in methods, but yet somehow we both still make delicious
my
foods.
favorite quote, we're gonna have to share the clip of it, was when you and Libby were cooking together, and then we did the first cooking segment of What the Hell is Water, was making a pear tart and Irish cream.
Rustic pear tart.
A rustic pear tart. Yeah, see? Thank you for helping me with the recipe name. It's my struggle tonight. And Reed liked to pour out the Irish cream with
Gusto.
a grand gesture. And then Libby looks at the camera and goes, and I'm going to do it differently. And I was like, that is such the quote that I'm going to use all the time with you.
Yeah, no, and that's good. And I'm going to do it differently, which is, been one of my fun lessons to learn, which is everyone's got their own way to do things. And our job here at Helpful for Life is to show you all of the ways you can do them, but mostly focusing on the ways that will help you be more successful. A word I might use is the right way. But then it's up to you guys to decide exactly how you apply that. And you can take some of what we give you and leave some of it to the side. And you can also stubbornly resist things for days, weeks, months, and then eventually realize that.
But I was going to say, by calling things the right way, that sounds like you're being a little judgy.
Yeah.
So you should go watch the episode on Friday.
Yeah, our episode this last Friday was on judgment. And since we're talking about judgment, we also got to talk about expectations, which is another episode that we had on our morning show, What the Hell is Water? By the way, did we mention we have a morning show every weekday, 7:30 to 8:30 a.m. Central Time? Our sponsors paid us to say this. And by our sponsors, I mean us, because we're Helpful for Life.
We are the sponsors. We are the live stream. We are the course.
So, back to the queso. We've got some onions over there, which are sauteing. So, let me pull those over, too, with a looking like.
Okay.
All I know is it smells really good. Butter and onions. So, yeah. So, we can get a close-up over here so you can see. But if your house ever smells bad, just take some butter, put it in a pan, chop up some onions, and look, you can see how the color of these have changed. You can see, obviously, some of these definitely have some browning around them. And what that is it's a little bit of caramelization, also a little bit, possibly, I'm not 100% on this one, but I believe it's also some Maillard reaction. And basically, caramelization and Maillard reaction are fancy ways, scientific ways of saying that there's browning. And that browning leads to additional flavors, which leads to deliciousness. And so what we're going to do now is, these are a pretty good spot, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
So, again, they've softened, they've gotten a little bit extra color, a little bit extra flavor, they've gotten rid of some of their moisture, which is kind of boiled off, and then we're going to add the peppers, because the peppers don't need quite as long to cook.
They've already roasted. They're roasty toasty.
Roasty toasty.
Roasty toasty peppers.
And, okay, real quick, let's get one close-up on that before you go away. I just want to point out, oh, man. Look at Danielle. One other little pro tip that I taught her a while back is whenever you're scraping off of a cutting board, if you just use the back of the knife, which is also known as the spine, versus the sharp side, which is the cutting edge, then you're not scraping your sharp cutting edge against the cutting board, which admittedly in this case on a plastic flimsy cutting board probably won't do much. But if you do that over time, you dull your knives. So why not just not dull your knives, flip your knife over and scrape it off.
And also, when you do it this way, with the back of the knife, you don't hurt Reed's soul.
Which is more important, because
he said, oh yeah, you can go for it.
No, go for it.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, he said in the course, if you scrape with your knife this way, it hurts his soul.
And maybe that's what I need to say more often. Danielle, when you don't clean up that thing we talked about, it hurts my soul. Because clearly that's what she needs to.
No, but then you'll become the boy who cried Soul.
Which I haven't seen the movie Soul yet. Or did we? Is that one we watched?
We did watch that one.
No, that is one we watched.
And that actually has the synchronicity with the quote that named "What the hell is water?"
Oh, right. Do you remember?
There's some wise, mentor-ish woman, sharing the parable with
regardless, let me just say what the
character.
parable is, and you can add
okay.
your point. So, our morning show, which you guys keep asking about, so we're going to tell you, which is What the Hell is Water, which is the name of the show. And some of you may be like, okay, I know what water is, H2O, it's the thing we drink all the time, I get it. But the name is based on this parable, which is a fancy way of saying a story that's meant to kind of teach you something. And there's two fish, they're swimming in the ocean, right? And then a third fish comes swimming at them, and he's like, oh, how's the water today? And then one of the first fish looks at the other and says, what the hell is water? And that's when you realize, oh, this fish doesn't even realize that he's been swimming in water his entire life, because it's all around him. He's never had to question it, never had to think about it, much less like air for humans, right? We don't really think that much about it, but it's what helps us breathe. And so the thought process with this, our show, What the Hell is Water, is teaching you guys about all the things that they're affecting you every day of your life, whether or not you realize them. But we explain how, and we explain why, and we dive into all sorts of things. And honestly, I don't think any topic is not fair game for that. We talk about drugs, we talk about sex, we talk about politics, we talk about how to make yourself better, we talk about mental health, we talk about food, which, by the way, I don't know if we shared it yet in the chat, but one of those episodes we did a special episode, as Danielle was mentioning, with our friend Libby Corno, who she has a company called Libby's Kitchen and Studio, which you can check out at libbyskitchenandstudio.com. And her and I, we did the cooking show where we did the rustic pear tart and the Irish cream, homemade Irish cream, which is like Bailey's, in case you haven't heard of it before. And within that video, I think we shared, my gut says we shared over 100 tips as we were going.
Oh, definitely over 100. I've already been counting.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think I got to 160, actually.
Oh, yes. So we're not going to disclose exactly how long that video is. You're going to have to find that one out yourself. But there's a lot of really good tips in there. And, man, it's just...
We're going to chop it up and make TikToks.
Yeah, exactly. She says with the knife. So I'm going to step away. Okay, so we've got the peppers. We've got the onions. Those are sauteing. What are you working on now, Danielle?
So now I'm just chopping up a bunch of cilantro. Literally one bunch. Just take the whole bunch and then chop off all the leaves and the stems at the top. You can use the stems of cilantro. They've got good flavor. It's fine.
So what's the deal with this? I mean, I thought cilantro tasted like soap.
Well, if you're one of the unluckies, as I call them.
It's like the unforgiven, but
yeah.
The unluckies.
Then you just don't get to enjoy the fresh deliciousness that is cilantro.
Yeah, and in case you're not aware of what Danielle's talking about, there's actually a genetic marker or a gene that is, I believe, inheritable.
Yeah, I think let's hope it's recessive. Jeez.
Danielle's the one who took the one high school genetics class, so she knows a lot more than me. But there's a gene that makes, when you taste cilantro, it tastes like soap. And so if you've ever had a friend who've told you that, there is a chance they're full of it, but there's also a chance it actually tastes like soap to them. But if you're me, make sure to question them and be like, I don't know, are you really sure about that? Have you looked at the science? And maybe you need to give them the eyebrow and give them that kind of questioning eyebrow, which is a reference to yet another What the Hell is Water episode with our special guest, Alexandra Maracanos. Not Maracanos, that's not her last name. That's her company name.
She should just change her last name at this point. Have you told her yet?
Her last name is Mannerings, Alexandra Mannerings, and to help my producer out, we'll just link the entire playlist of her episodes. But one of those involves the questioning eyebrow, which is what you should have when you see headlines, when you hear quotes about studies, or you hear something like, oh, you'll have better sex if you toast the right way. Then you start to question. You have that questioning eyebrow, and you start to look into it yourself. So we've got the onions and the peppers. They're sauteing down. As we mentioned, the peppers don't need that much time, but how long do you think they need, Danielle?
Oh, I think they're good. I think we can start dumping in other stuff now.
Dumping in other stuff now. Okay, so what's the next step?
So next, I would dump in your pound of cheese. I used to use a pound of white American cheese, which is like Land O'Lakes. And then now I'm going to try this Mexican-style cheese for melting.
Mexican-style cheese
Which
for
is
melting.
exactly what I want to do with it, so I thought it would be perfect.
Yeah. Well,
this is the first time I've tried this cheese, so we're doing an experiment together this evening.
We'll see how it turns out. And for those who are curious, here's a close-up of the exact one we've got. It's called La Morenita, which is the brand, and it's called Queso Quesadilla. It's Mexican-style cheese for melting, and supposedly it's Chihuahua, Mexico style. None of those things have been fact-checked by us, but in case you're curious what La Morenita means in Spanish, it's like the little brown-haired woman, basically. So, Danielle's just going to go ahead and dump 1 pound, which is also 16 ounces. How many grams does it say on there?
Let's see. 454.
454 grams,
454
in case
grams.
you're using metric. And she dumped that in with, 4 or 5 roasted poblano peppers and 3 roasted jalapenos. and about half a stick of butter. And oh, by the way, we're gonna share the recipe for this with you guys as well. And I don't know if we've really talked about how today ties into the rest of the week. So one of the things that we're doing, we'll catch up on what Danielle's doing in a second, but one of the things we're doing this week is helping you guys build out a full meal. So today yesterday we focused on a drink, which is a great thing. People walk in the door, you're like, oh, welcome. Whether it's a date or a party, or it's just yourself, you're like, oh, welcome, self. I'm so glad you're home. And then you're like, you know what sounds great? A drink. And so you have a drink, which you could have a beer that's already ready. You could have some shots that you could easily pour. Or yesterday we talked about how to make a lemon drop martini, which, just a quick little tidbit for you, is a big thing within Kickstart Kitchen is talking about frameworks and methodologies. So we don't want to teach you just a recipe. We want to teach you the framework so you can make infinite possibilities of what you want. And yesterday we went to make a lemon drop martini, and as we went to make it, we realized we were out of vodka. As we said earlier today, we need to do some more stocking of our liquor staples. So we ended up making one with rum, but kind of the general formula is you take liquor, a sweetener, and some citrus, and you combine those things and you get delicious cocktails. And so with the traditional lemon drop martini, you've got vodka, you've got lemon, and simple syrup. We mentioned some other possible sweeteners you can use yesterday, and yesterday we used rum instead of vodka, and guess what? It was still delicious, and it still got us a little tipsy. Would you agree?
Yes, definitely.
So yesterday was the drink. Today we showed you another drink. We may end up showing you a drink every day. Who knows? But today we wanted to talk a little bit about an appetizer, because one of the ways to really level up your cooking game to impress other people, whether it's yourself or a date, is to course things out. You know, you have an appetizer, have a main meal, and have a dessert. Like, how often does someone get served a 3-course meal at home or from a home-cooked meal, right?
Yeah, and so you know how we were talking about earlier how like queso in Mexico is different than Tex-Mex queso.
Is this one already going to be different?
This cheese isn't melting quite the same. So, you know, we'll see.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so this is, you know, what happens when you leave Danielle, you know, to do all the things, and she improvises. But you know what? It's delicious because it's still cheese.
It tastes good.
It's still jalapenos.
The consistency is just going to be a little different than your typical queso dip.
Right.
Which I hate calling it queso dip. It's just queso.
It's just queso. But what I'm going to go out a limb here is, since this cheese was Mexican style, I think this is going to be a little closer to that queso flameado or the queso fundido that we mentioned before, which is just going to be...
It is melting. It's very melty.
Yeah, it's just, it holds together a little better, I would say, and kind of more stringy. Kind of like, think like, if you ever heard the term cheese pull, if you ever seen somebody like cut apart a grilled cheese or take a slice of pizza, I guess you could just show people.
I was like, you want to talk cheese pull?
Oh,
that one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that, I mean, it still looks freaking good. Let's be real.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to kick it out of bed.
Right.
Or my bowl.
So is this good or what? You want to put it back on the heat?
Sure. Let's put it back on the heat.
There you go. Put that back on the heat. So today we wanted to show you guys how to make an easy appetizer. And in this case, you just do a little bit of chopping, you dump stuff in the pot, and oh, by the way, if you use some of the cheeses that Danielle recommends in her recipe... In
the original recipe that's on my Instagram,
then it won't have this kind of...
It won't have this.
It'll be more like... I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good, like, consistency comparison.
Like a good cheese soup. Like a...
a broccoli cheddar or something like that.
Or potato cheese soup.
So it's thicker than water, but thinner than...
It'll stay on your chip, but it's not gonna you're not gonna get the whole bowl of cheese out with your one chip.
Right.
Because it's all sticking together.
With queso fundido or something like this would probably do. You try and scoop something out.
But this will be great to put on, so if you get the uncooked tortillas from the store.
Do we have any of those?
Yes.
Oh, nice. Let's grab them.
Well, they're right there. And you put them in a pan, like you just heat up a frying pan on medium high, and like 30 seconds on each side. And this style of queso will be great to spoon into homemade tortillas. So
yeah, and
there you go.
This particular brand, in case you're curious, where'd you shop today?
Walmart.
Shopped at Walmart.
Wally World.
This brand is called La Abuela, which means grandmother in Spanish, or the grandmother. And we've had another brand too, which... Guerrero.
I've tagged them.
Yeah, Guerrero is very popular.
Yeah.
Like we found them across the US.
Frescaricas, I think, is what they call their refrigerated, uncooked tortillas that you cook yourself in the pan.
Yeah, and the difference with this is, I don't know 100% for sure, but I'm guessing this has less preservatives and stuff because you have to buy it in the refrigerated section, and it's not cooked, so you cook it at home. And I do think they're definitively better.
Definitively better.
And as she mentioned, it's literally like less than a minute.
Yeah.
Your pan to heat up, flip it over, and especially if you're doing a bunch, you just...
And then you get a tortilla warmer and feel legit like your own Tex-Mex restaurant.
And in case you don't know what a tortilla warmer is, it's just this. It's basically a cylindrical holder with a lid. And on the top it even says tortillas, arepas, tortillas, arepas, tortillas, arepas, tortillas, arepas.
I'm hypnotized again.
Tortillas, arepas. Okay, so we didn't show it on camera, but what were you doing back there with the milk?
Oh, I was just adding the milk in hopes of thinning the consistency.
So do you always add milk, or just with this type of
I
cheese?
do always add milk. Usually, I would say it's probably like a quarter or a third, maybe a half of a cup max. Definitely less than a cup of milk, and I usually add it like a few tablespoons at a time and stir just to test consistency. And it's really personal preference.
Yeah, a huge thing, again, I think we said it before, but we'll say it again 1,000 times, is we want you guys to be cooking and feeling and tasting and sensing your stuff as you're making it so you can make it to your preference. And one of those things is thickness, right? And so you may decide you want yours a little bit thinner, so you'll add a little bit more milk than the next guy. Also recognize that as it cools, it will thicken a little bit as well. And so if you have a crock pot, especially if you have a small crock pot, it could be a good idea to serve it in a small crock pot so it kind of keeps it warm. And you might want to stir it every so often because queso dip can often get a little film on top, which is perfectly fine to eat, just texturally may not be the best. Also, did you use any other cheese or just that one bag?
So once I saw that it was doing the clumping thing, I grabbed the last of the white American cheese that we had in the fridge and added that in there because that's usually like the texture thing. The American cheese has some sort of...
Melting salt.
Yes, melting salt, where it... usually if I add that in and then like I add white cheddar to the queso, which is what I normally do, then the American cheese and their melting salts helps the cheddar also melt into the queso and maintain that like melty soupy consistency. So I thought that I would add in what we had left of the white American cheese to that to see if it would help the texture, which maybe it did a little bit, and I was adding some more milk.
Yeah, but in general, do you
yes.
normally add white American to your queso?
Yes.
Okay.
That's normally the main like the staple
Cool.
cheese that I add to every queso
So
because
just
of the texture.
we're all on the same page here. The time we decided to go live and make your queso for 1,000+ people, you decided to completely change it up.
Well, I thought that it was gonna be a way more like legit, authentic. It literally says queso in the cheese. I was like, oh look, I'm gonna use the legit Mexican melting cheese.
Some people may say I'm taking a shot at Danielle, but
Nah.
the real point is that's one of the things that we've learned, and I don't know, for me it's been my favorite part about cooking is that we're not afraid to try stuff out.
Yeah.
Because now we've done it enough to where we know generally how things are going to go. And sometimes you end up with mistakes, quote unquote, like this.
It's just gonna be different tonight. It's gonna be different queso.
Right.
But it's still gonna be deliciously different.
Especially if you're Danielle, you're like, is it that big of a deal that it's different queso? Because, she gets to eat more of it, maybe, and so for her, it's kind of a win-win.
Yeah. Try something different.
But the nice thing about cooking is, regardless of if you completely fail, your results are probably still going to be edible. And it's like a little science experiment you do every day, generally less than an hour, and you get to taste the results, and you get to learn. And next time Danielle makes queso, well, depending on how this goes, maybe she'll start buying this cheese more often. maybe she won't buy it again. Or maybe she'll say, hey, I want to intentionally make maybe some queso fundido or something like that. Then she'd buy that.
I mean, that actually smells really fantastic. Like, it smells like the cheese that's inside of a quesadilla.
Yeah.
Which I think is what it's usually
and that's why it said in that whatever.
It's for melting, just not for melting into a soupy dip. I don't know.
Yeah.
There you go.
Any last thing? Oh, do you want to do a tortilla so we can plate up the queso on a tortilla? Or do you want to get chips? Or how do you want to do it?
Oh, I was just gonna say we'll taste it after, but I guess we can taste it.
I think we should taste it. I think we should totally taste it. So as Danielle prepares the tasting, I wanted to make sure to talk a little bit about the other things that we offer in the Plan and Shop milestone. And the other two things were grocery shop like a boss, and this isn't really expired, is it? And in grocery shop like a boss, we dive into everything grocery shopping. And part of that is talking about all the different types of grocery stores that there are. Because in case you weren't aware, there's a whole bunch of different kinds. There's what we call like conventional grocery stores, which are things you might think of like Kroger, Tom Thumb, based on where you are in the country. It could be other things like Ralph's, and I'm blanking on some other names. But the bottom line is actually of the major conventional grocery stores, there's like 25 different brands that are owned by Albertsons and Kroger. So they're essentially the same stores, all kind of within the same thing, which is good and bad. So we talk a little bit about that. We talk about the other various kinds of stores you can get, including ethnic stores and convenience stores. And we give you guys a complete download on, hey, you might want to buy these things from here. You can get these things a lot cheaper over there. You can find ingredients at this store that you wouldn't find elsewhere. And as we mentioned before, we dive into the online stuff. And then we also have a diagram where we show, hey, this is the rough layout of most grocery stores. And here's how you can navigate it to best find the things you want without getting distracted too much. And then the last thing that we talked about in the milestone is this isn't really expired, is it? Because that's a thing that varies a lot, depending on who you're talking to. Mm-hmm. You know, you talk to one person, not going to name any names, may or may not be related to one of us, and they eat, like, I don't know, a pound of raw bacon. And they think that's okay. And they still live to tell the tale.
Yeah, I was like, but they are okay.
But they are okay.
So...
And then on the other side, you have people who are like, well, I cooked this yesterday. I'm throwing it away because it's bad. And
yeah,
so in the course...
all ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, in the course, we talk a little bit more about how you can tell when things are expired, when they're good, when you should keep them, when you should throw them away. And, of course, elsewhere in the course as well, we talk about leftovers and the power of those. So, again, if you would like to purchase the course, go to kickstartyourkitchen.com, and you can get it for a special price of $69, whereas normally it's $99. And going with the kind of the love Valentine's Day theme and impressing a date, we're going to include a little bit of a bonus food, sex type of thing. And we don't know exactly what yet, but it'll be fun.
Oh, I love teasing things we don't even know what yet.
Yes. So without further ado, let us taste this queso so we can see how it is. And we've got some blue corn chips here. Oh yeah, let's get a close up real quick. So you can see, like, this is definitely a dip. Oh yeah. I mean, so again, it kind of depends on what you're looking for. I find this pretty impressive. Like, come on. You're telling me you don't want to see your date doing that while slowly making eye contact with you and just... Oh, wait. I'm going to have to eat this one.
Oh.
What do you think?
Tastes good. Pretty tasty.
Give us a long cheese pull looking at the camera.
Okay. Oh, that was pathetic. Oh, what a tease. That was just sad.
All right, let's see.
Creepy.
Well, gotta say, even though it's different, it's still good.
I'm not mad at it.
Cheese, onions, peppers, which, by the way, in case you're curious,
Are vegetables.
and a fruit. They're both.
Oh. Okay.
Peppers are botanically a fruit. but in the food culinary world, they're kind of more like a vegetable.
Mm.
So
Nutritionally a vegetable?
if you're trying to like be like, oh, I'm getting stuff in there, you're getting fruits and vegetables in there.
And herbs.
And herbs.
If you like cilantro.
But bottom line is this queso dip, very easy way to make an appetizer. You can do it in advance, right? You could even do this the day
you can
before.
jar it up.
You could jar it up.
And then you just put it in a crock pot or heat it up in the microwave.
Yeah, or you can put it in a saucepan or whatever and put it on low. But you can make this even a few days before.
Yeah.
Which is another big tip for you guys as you're trying to cook to impress a date. Don't try and do it all the day of, right before your date gets there. Like, do a little bit of prep work in advance. Make things easier on yourself. And by having something like this, have an appetizer out, you give people something to eat on. So they come in, you give them a drink, you give them an appetizer. You took the care of their Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which we talked about that
Tequila
on the show
first.
as well. You got alcohol, you got food, you start to have some conversation. Hopefully you've got some music going on. Maybe you light some candles, change the lighting a little bit. If you're like me, you put some colored LED strips around the house to change the vibe a little bit. And yeah, the biggest thing about impressing a date is taking the time and effort to really think things through and pay attention to the small details. And each one of them is by no means hard, but it just by paying that little bit of extra attention, people will feel the result. And that's the difference between really good hospitality and just crap. And that's when you go to a 5-star hotel or something, they greet you at the door, they tell you, they welcome you by name, they know your preferences from your previous trips. All of those things are just little small things that add up. And those small things add up a lot. And so our job here with this week and with the course is to tell you how you can pay attention to those small things, but even better, how you can customize those small things to do what you want to do. So this week, we're all about learning how to cook. Let me say that again because I messed it up because we changed the name. This week is all about learning to cook to impress a date. So if you want to know more about this, whether you're watching this live today or you're watching this next week or in the future, 15 years, or from a spaceship 30 years from now.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Which makes me think of our sales video for Kickstart Your Kitchen.
I can't say wow without thinking of Owen Wilson and you now.
Yeah, so we'll link that in the chat here too.
Wow.
But yeah, go to kickstartyourkitchen.com to learn more, and we could talk on that page. We talk all about how you can get more out of cooking, regardless of if you've never cooked before, or you've been cooking for decades. Unless I just die.
Don't die. Okay, that's a sign. We should go before Reed dies.
Yes, we should go before Reed dies. So with that, everyone, have a wonderful rest of your day, and learn to cook to impress a date.com.